All right, so get ready, everybody, because we are going deep today, a deep dive into some seriously fascinating ideas about fate and free will and personal growth. We're going to be exploring some excerpts from a really interesting source. Decodes. That's The Path to Awakening. Destiny, the Present Moment, and Personal Growth, if you don't happen to read Chinese.
It's a really cool exploration, I think, of how Eastern philosophy and personal development can kind of intersect. This source is really saying that we're not just kind of passively, just recipients of whatever fate throws at us,
Yeah.
but that we can actually be active participants in kind of shaping our own destiny.
I love that we're going to unpack those ideas and see how they apply to, well, your life. I'm curious, have you ever felt like certain things in your life are just sort of, I don't know, predetermined?
Oh, I think most people have felt that way at some point. This source talks about two layers of destiny, innate and acquired. And the idea is that, yeah, some things might be kind of fixed at birth. It calls it our innate destiny. But we actually have a surprising amount of influence over how things unfold through our acquired destiny.
Okay, so walk us through those concepts a little bit. What exactly does this source mean by fate?
Well, it kind of breaks fate down into two parts. It uses these two terms, Ming, which translates to destiny, and Yun, which is more about fortune or luck. Ming, the destiny part, is like the blueprint of our lives. And like we said, it has layers, the deepest layers of the innate destiny, which is set at birth. It includes things like, well, you can think of your physical traits, your personality, even certain life experiences that we might have.
Okay, so that innate destiny, that blueprint is fixed. But if we have free will, how can some things be, preset like that?
Well, that's where karma comes into play. This source is really drawing on some Buddhist teachings, and they suggest that our innate destiny is linked to the karma that we've kind of accumulated from past lives. It's almost like, our starting point in this life is determined by the energy we've carried over from, well, previous lives.
Okay, wow, that raises so many questions. So is someone born into poverty, are they just working off bad karma? And on the flip side, is someone born into privilege just, reaping the rewards of good karma?
It's not quite that simple. The source makes a really interesting point, that resisting our innate destiny actually creates suffering. It's almost like swimming upstream against a really strong current. Acceptance, on the other hand, is seen as the starting point for growth. It's about acknowledging the hand we've been dealt and then figuring out how to play it skillfully.
So acceptance is not about resignation, it's more about empowerment.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of acquired destiny comes in. We have the power to change our fortunes through our choices and our actions. Think of it like this. Life is this huge, vast multiverse with countless possibilities. Our innate destiny might set the initial conditions, but our acquired destiny is constantly evolving based on the paths we choose.
That's a really powerful way to visualize it. I like that. It kind of suggests that even if our starting point is challenging, we're not locked into a predetermined outcome, right? Our choices really do matter.
Absolutely, yeah. This source challenges the idea that fate is just this fixed entity, and it presents a much more dynamic and interactive view of how things unfold.
And this all connects to the Buddhist idea of reincarnation too, right? Each life is like another chance to learn and grow.
Yes. Each lifetime is a chance to evolve spiritually and to maybe break free from what might be considered some negative karmic patterns. And the source really emphasizes that hardship. Hardship isn't necessarily a punishment, but it can be a catalyst for growth.
Yeah.
It can force us to develop resilience and cultivate wisdom in a way that might not happen in a life of ease and comfort.
So are you saying that challenges are actually beneficial? Like they can help us evolve?
Yeah, this source argues that challenges are not only beneficial, but they're essential for growth. It actually aligns with this Buddhist principle called affliction is bodhi.
Okay, I love it. Break that down for us. What exactly does affliction is bodhi mean?
Well, essentially it means that challenges, those afflictions, are actually the path to enlightenment, which is bodhi. It's the idea that by working through our difficulties, we refine our character, gain wisdom, and ultimately evolve spiritually.
So it's not about avoiding challenges, but learning to embrace them as what? Opportunities for growth. That's a huge shift in perspective.
Yeah, it really is. And it's not just, our mindset around challenges that shapes our journey. This source also explores this idea that we each emit a certain energy frequency, and that this energy can actually attract similar experiences and people into our lives.
Okay, energy frequency. That's intriguing, but also a little vague. Can you maybe elaborate on what that means and how it works?
Sure, think of it like a cosmic tuning fork. We all vibrate at a certain frequency, And that frequency influences the types of experiences we attract. It's based on that principle that attracts
So if I'm constantly stressed and negative, I'm more likely to attract stressful and negative situations.
that's the idea. The source even gives the example of someone with an aggressive nature. They're more likely to encounter conflict and kind of create drama wherever they go simply because, their energy is attracting those experiences.
That makes sense. But how much control do we actually have over our energy frequency? It's not like we can just flip a switch and suddenly become, a beacon of positivity.
True, it's not an instant transformation, but this source is all about empowerment, right? It argues that through spiritual practice, we can actively raise our energy frequency. Things like self-awareness and positive actions and developing wisdom, all of that can contribute to a higher vibration.
So not just about thinking happy thoughts, it's more about actively cultivating a more positive state of being.
Exactly, it's about aligning your inner world with your outer world. And as we raise our frequency, we start to attract more favorable circumstances and connect with people who are also, vibrating at a higher level.
Okay, so I'm trying to visualize this. What does it actually look like to raise your energy frequency?
Well, imagine life is like a scale from 1 to 100, 1 being the most difficult, 100 being the most fulfilling. Our energy frequency determines where we fall on that scale.
Yeah.
So if your energy is, let's say, at level 50, you're going to resonate with people and situations that match that level. But if you can raise your frequency to, I don't know, say 70, you'll start attracting more positive experiences, connect with people who are also vibrating at a higher level.
It's like leveling up in a video game. The higher your frequency, the richer and more fulfilling your experience becomes.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And this source takes it a step further, suggesting that the ultimate goal is to reach level 100, this state of complete harmony and oneness, where you can kind of embrace all experiences with, equanimity.
That sounds amazing, but also incredibly challenging. How do we even begin to raise our frequency, in a practical, tangible way?
This source really emphasizes the importance of present moment awareness. It suggests that dwelling on the past or worrying about the future actually keeps us stuck in this kind of low frequency loop.
So step one is to quiet the mental chatter and focus on being present in the now.
Precisely, yeah. And that includes letting go of attachment to outcomes. The source argues that true awakening isn't about forcing things to happen, but about surrendering to the flow of life and accepting whatever comes our way. There's a great quote. It says, "True awakening is not about manifesting whatever you desire, but about realizing that it doesn't matter whether desires manifest or not."
Wow, that's a pretty radical idea in a world that's so obsessed with manifestation and control. So you're saying that true peace comes from acceptance, not necessarily from getting what we want.
That's what this source seems to suggest. When we're attached to specific outcomes, we create resistance, suffering. But when we let go of those attachments and we cultivate acceptance, we find this deep sense of inner peace, regardless of what's happening externally.
I can see how that ties back to the energy frequency idea. When we're constantly striving and resisting, we're generating a lot of, negative energy, which keeps us stuck in that lower frequency.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And when we surrender to what is, we release that resistance and open ourselves up to a higher frequency. That's not to say we become passive, but rather that we learn to move through life with more grace and ease, even in the face of challenges.
This whole concept of mastering fate is really fascinating. It's not about, manipulating external circumstances to get what we want, but it's about cultivating an internal state that allows us to navigate life with, more wisdom and resilience. Would you say that's accurate?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It really is about self-mastery instead of trying to control everything outside of us.
Right. It's not about, making the universe bend to our will, but aligning ourselves with kind of a deeper understanding of, how things actually work.
Yeah. Working with the flow instead of constantly, fighting against it.
So we're not just passengers on this, crazy journey of life. We have choices and they, create ripple effects.
And this source really emphasizes that, spiritual practice is what helps us to make conscious, empowered choices. It helps us refine our, consciousness, shed those limiting beliefs, and cultivate wisdom and compassion.
So it's like going from just reacting to life's challenges to actually responding to them with more awareness and intention.
Exactly, yeah. Developing those inner resources so that we can navigate, whatever comes our way with grace and skill. And remember, the challenges we face aren't punishments, but they're actually opportunities for growth and transformation.
Right. So instead of seeing them as setbacks, we can reframe them as like stepping stones on our path to becoming the best versions of ourselves.
I love that. That's such a great way to put it. And it really aligns with the overall message of this source, understanding fate. It's not about resigning ourselves to destiny, but about mastering it. We have way more agency than we think a lot of the time.
So it's not about denying the challenges or pretending they don't exist, but more about learning to, navigate them with more wisdom and resilience.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And remember, this is an ongoing thing. It's a process. It takes continuous self-reflection, commitment to spiritual practice, and, well, a willingness to confront our own limitations.
Okay, so as we wrap things up here, what are some key takeaways you hope people listening will walk away with today?
Well, I really hope they understand that fate isn't this, like, fixed sentence, is this dynamic back and forth between, well, predestination and free will. We really do have more power to shape our own destinies than we often realize. And that power comes from cultivating self-awareness, raising our energy frequency, and embracing the present moment.
I love it. This has been such an insightful deep dive. It's really given me a whole new perspective on, well, fate, free will, personal growth, that whole thing. And if our listeners are as intrigued as I am, I really encourage you to check out the full text of Sagi. It's full of wisdom and practical guidance.
It's definitely a journey worth taking for sure.
And as you go about your day today, dear listener, we'll leave you with this question to ponder. If our energy frequency really dictates the experiences that we, well, attract into our lives, what steps can you take today to raise your own vibration and create a more fulfilling reality? Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and always remember you are the master of your own fate.